Hi everyone, this is Stu with the Chalkboard Agency. Thanks so very much for joining us today. Cognitive dissonance. Whew, that's a mouthful. Cognitive dissonance, what the heck does that mean? Well, why don't we break it down each word. Cognitive. It is how our mind learns, understands, it's how it sees the world. Dissonance. Dissonance is a conflict between our beliefs and our actions. So basically, cognitive dissonance is when our brain, our thoughts don't exactly match our actions. So why would I start this video with these big words, most of which I can't spell, by the way? Because cognitive dissonance is at the root of the story you're about to hear. You're about to hear from our very own Kevin Ozar, and he's going to tell you about a time where his thoughts, how his brain works, did not meet his actions.
Hey, I'm going to tell you a story today about something that happened to me when I was a much younger guy, but almost an adult. I was in college. And so this story takes place in the early 90s, mid 90s. And I was a young person at college. It was my first year at college. And I went to a party. And whatever you've ever seen, like on a Netflix show or on a TikTok about big college parties, it was that. It was hundreds of people and loud music and all kinds of people making all kinds of choices. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. And I was having a great time, and they were playing songs that I liked, and I was with some friends and people I knew, and I was meeting other people, and it was just a blast. It was a really, really fun time. And I was in the room talking to the person who was playing the music, because I always love music and what song are you going to play next. And in the main room with dozens and dozens of people around, this really big guy bumped into another really big guy. And you know where this is going. You've seen this in the movies, right? Hey, what are you doing? One guy shoves the other guy, another guy and then shoves, and then there are all these people. And suddenly somebody yells, "Fight!" The music was still playing, but it's kind of like the music stopped because people were dancing, people were talking, people doing all kinds of stuff. And instantly everyone's attention turned to these two big people. And they're shoving each other. And I was one of those people. I was riveted. I was so excited to see what happens next. And one of the people who was throwing the party was like, "Take it outside, get out of here, take it outside." And so suddenly, dozens and dozens of people start emptying out the front door, following these two people who are gonna fight. And I'm one of the people following. I can't wait to see this. Now, this is the early 90s, so people weren't taking out cell phones because it wasn't a thing that happened. So we were all just gonna watch. And people are coming from downstairs and everyone's headed out, and these two dudes are kind of squaring up in front of the house. And as I'm walking out the front door, right as I'm walking out the front door, I see somebody who I kind of know, but I don't know really well. And she's an older student, and she's in one of my history classes. And I look at her and I was like, "Fight." And she's like, "Yeah." And it kind of broke me out of what I was thinking. And she said, "Are you gonna watch?" And I was like, "Yeah, like this is like the movie. This is amazing." I didn't say that, but that's what I was thinking. I was like, "Yeah." And she looked me dead in my face and she's like, "Oh, I didn't know you were the kind of person who liked to watch people hurt each other." If I was a balloon, all the air would have just, I was like, "Wait, what?" I was like, "No, I'm not like that." She goes, "Well, your actions say you are. You're excited for a fight." And she walked back in the house. And I just kind of stood there. And I can't tell you if the fight happened or who won, if anybody really wins a fight, or how that party ended, because she kind of blew my mind in that moment, and not in a good way. I was like, am I a person who likes to watch people hurt each other? That doesn't sound right. I don't want to be that kind of person. But here I am, all excited and cheering like I'm watching a sporting event, and it's two people trying to hurt each other. And I walked home. I left. I couldn't get my brain around this idea that it turns out I'm something I didn't think I was, and it's not good. And I kind of wandered back to my dorm room, and my roommate was there. My roommate took school very seriously, so he was always studying. And he's gone on to be very successful. It was a good choice. And he's like, hey man, how was the party? You're home pretty early. And I was like, it was terrible. And he's like, what happened? I was like, well, there was a fight. He's like, are you okay? I was like, yeah, it wasn't me. He goes, well, what? I don't know. I didn't have the words. Because my whole life, I thought, well, I'm a pretty good person, and I don't think people should be hurt. And yet, how many fights have I watched? How many times have I cheered for stuff? And it turns out who I thought I was didn't line up with my actions. And that was not okay. And I was had to think about it the whole rest of that weekend. And I realized I want to be the person I think I am, but my actions have got to line up with that. And I saw her again in class, and we were fine. And life just kind of kept going. But that night really shook me. And the cool thing is, a couple of years later, I had an opportunity to do something about it. Still in college. Now I'm an upperclassman, and I'd gone to see our basketball team play. Love to go cheer on Dayton Flyers, University of Dayton. Shout out to the Dayton Flyers. And we had won. We won the game. And so some friends and I were walking across the parking lot, and all the fans are streaming out. And I had kind of forgot about that night my freshman year until there was a fan from our rival school. I don't want to say who it was. Xavier University in Cincinnati. And they were jawing a little bit, not being very good. We might call it a sore loser, but I get it. You want your team to win. And some other fans from our school were talking, and they got closer and closer. And next thing we knew, they were going to fight. And in that moment, I had a choice to be the person I thought I was in my head, or to just watch or walk away. Well, I didn't. I was like, hey, fellas, come on. And I started shouting, like, come on. And I turned to the people I was with. I was like, we're not letting them fight. No way, this is dumb. And so we went over there, and I didn't put myself in danger. Because sometimes if people want to make bad choices, you don't want to put yourself in the middle of their bad choice. You want to be safe. But I was like, this is dumb. Seriously, you paid money for a ticket. It's a sporting event. It happened. We're going to play them again in 2 months. Like, let it go. Just go to your cars. Go away. And they did. I felt so good that I got to actually be the person who I thought I was. And I also felt pretty good because those were two people who left a basketball game and didn't get hurt and didn't hurt anybody else. And so I tell you this story because I think it's important that we take a look at how we're acting and say, do my actions line up with who I say I am, with what my values are, with what I really believe? Or do I just think I believe that stuff, but when it comes to everyday life, I'm just following the crowd? And then you always have a chance to make a good choice again later. So if you feel like sometimes your actions haven't lined up, that's okay. Dr. Maya Angelou says, when we know better, we do better. So now, maybe you know better. Maybe it's time to do better.
Thank you so very much, Kevin, for sharing your story. And yes, you did see Kevin's cat make a cameo at the end of that story. Aside from that, though, Kevin's story is not an unfamiliar one. In fact, I can remember back to my young childhood and even later where those situations I've been in myself. And Kevin's story prompts actually some really interesting questions. So question number one, given the first situation where Kevin was on his way to go watch this fight, what would you have done? If you heard the word fight, right now in your brain, think to yourself, what would you have done? Question number two, and remember, we don't ever advocate for you jumping into a fight because we don't want anybody to get hurt. But having heard Kevin's story, do you think you would be more inclined to try and prevent a fight? And question number three is actually two parts. What are your thoughts about people filming a fight? And part two, what are your thoughts about those filmed fights being put on the internet? Hey, thanks for your time, everybody. This is Stu with the Chalkboard Agency.